hey, new information should be processed through values, not through, hey, this is my team and my guy, so I'm going to go to bat for him. Like, yeah, sometimes your team and your guy is a terrible person. And when you figure that out, it's time to jump ship. What's up, y'all? Welcome back to the Before You Speak podcast. I am your host, Derek Peterson, just drinking from the fire hose, which I guess I kind of stole that from Elwyn. I stole that from you, I think 2 months ago you said it, and then you use it sometimes as well, so I guess I should probably stop using it. But
no, I thought that was our shtick now. We go back and forth. I spend a week coming up with a funny way to talk about the fire hose, drinking from the fire hose to answer yours. I think we're good.
Okay, good. Well, I didn't realize that it was our shtick still. So, but that's what we're doing. Basically just processing the news in real time, trying to figure out what's going on. And this is my co-host, Elwyn Hutter.
How you doing, Derek? I am Elwyn. I am living here in Austin, got a couple kids, married, couple cats, and it's Christmas. It's that week between Christmas and New Year, so I've been drinking more from the whiskey bottle than the fire hose of my news feed, which is a nice change. I think maybe I don't know.
Today was the day I cut out all drinking until I hit my actual goal weight this time. I got to get serious about it, man. I'm not quite catching up to you yet, but I'm
going the wrong way. Don't catch up to me, man. I'm going the wrong way.
I definitely feel the impacts of drinking, specifically on my heart. There's the other day, what was it? It was the day after Christmas, and we drank pretty heavily throughout the day on Christmas. I woke up the next morning and I came downstairs to get my coffee, and I noticed just sitting down, I'm like, why am I breathing heavy? This isn't I'm doing nothing challenging and I have no idea why I'm breathing heavy. I'm like, I gotta start taking this shit seriously again. So
I track a couple of things every morning because I wear my watch overnight, and resting heart rate is one of them, because at sleep, that's a pretty good metric. And whenever I drink, and if I drink at 9 o'clock, it goes up at least 10%, my resting heart rate.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
That's good to know. Yeah. So I'm cutting out alcohol until I actually get to my goal weight, which I've done this a number of times before. I've actually accomplished this goal many times. So it's not something that's out of the realm of possible, and it's also a good reason for me to just stay off of taking some time away from drinking, and just the discipline of doing things without alcohol is important for me. So it's not a bad thing, but I'm looking forward to actually a productive year. I'm excited for the podcast. I'm excited for everything we have going on. I feel like this podcast has done something for me that I desperately needed, in that processing in real time with you has made me more emotionally reactive to the news, because instead of just reacting to the news in my head, now I'm like, oh, now we got to think about how we're going to talk about this. So it's actually been a relatively therapeutic for me, and has kept me way more even keeled and able to so if nothing else, I'm excited for that, because I feel like I finally have landed on a way to process all of the shit that we're going through and not let it just get to me all of the time. So I'm excited for this year. But
yeah, I mean, the thing looking back that I'm probably most excited about, outside of just kids or family accomplishment, is that we started this, and that you called me, and I was on the bike. I remember I was like, why is Derek calling me, man? This is never a phone call. There's got to be something bad. I better answer it. But no, agreed. Really excited. Same thing. I look at the news and I'm like, cool. How am I going to talk about this? I think about the topics we have coming up, and I'm like, do I know enough to have a defensible opinion? And it really does help change how I listen to things, how I process things. Makes me make sure that I look something up if I'm wondering what it is. I'm not exactly sure what this is, and nobody's told me, so I'm going to go and look it up. So I'm really excited for this too in 2026. Yeah. Thank you.
Dude, Well, let's yeah, dude. It's been I think good for both of us. So well, let's jump into the news. There's not a lot cooking these last couple weeks, not as much as we've been experiencing where it's like wait, did we just find out that our president killed a child and threw it into Lake Michigan? Although we haven't actually even talked about that
Like,
yet.
did that happen? That's
Or it was knowledgeable. I think that was
it
part
could
of
have
what it
happened. I don't know.
yeah, I can just say anything now, and it's like, wait, did that
Yeah,
actually? Is
I
that a real
missed that
thing?
one. Shit.
What tweet did that come out in?
Right.
Yeah. So I think the couple of news headlines. I think we'll jump in and start with the president's health because we've actually discussed this a few times before, but the fact that the president is knowingly coming out and talking about some of the health concerns in a way that's like, oh, I'm healthy, but I'm also like doing a bunch of this like additional stuff because I'm not actually healthy. Like that. I mean, uh, we need age limits for elected officials. Like if there's one thing that comes out of the Biden Trump era that if nothing else comes out of it, that would be a win because we should not have anybody over the age of honestly I would say 70. Like you can if your term starts before you're 70, that's fine, but you should not be allowed to get elected after 70. I just don't think it's cognitively. I don't think it's fair to the rest of the country, and we're seeing that in real time. Taking a bunch of extra aspirin, and I was reading a report from somebody that was in the White House that said like his diet still consists of like mostly McDonald's, which is like, all right, so we have an 80-year-old eating McDonald's every day and downing a bunch of aspirin, and then also controlling, the economy and all of the nukes and all right. Well,
Yeah,
see how.
100% agree. Age limits should be a thing now. The thing, and this is a me problem. I can never get past the just cognitive dissonance or hypocrisy of MAGA world, where you've got them screaming about Biden like from the day he was elected, and we now know with merit. Uh, but then when every sign points to the same thing for their guy, they listen to the press secretary be like, no, his hands always have makeup on them because they're bruised because he shakes so many hands every day. And they're like, yeah, no, that works for me. It's like, give me a fucking break. Like the he came out today, right, with another he took another cognitive test, and he spins it like he's doing us all a favor by taking all these cognitive tests to prove his cognitive health. I don't buy that for a second,
No,
right?
when have we ever needed to take a cognitive? I probably should take a
Yeah.
cognitive test now that I think about it. But yeah, like, it's
I mean,
never
like,
been a
look, maybe
necessity.
maybe a president should, like, maybe that should be a thing, right? Maybe he's right. Maybe an 80-year-old president should be taking cognitive tests every 6 months, but that's never been the case before. So I don't think he's doing it out of the goodness of his heart for us, right? He's most definitely doing it because the people around him are like, bro, we need to just touch base here, make sure that you know what a giraffe is. And MAGA world is just like, yeah, no, he's doing it so that we can all have faith that he knows what a giraffe is. And it's like, we got to figure out AI, man,
Yeah.
not giraffes.
Yes. That's a great analogy and one that I will probably steal from you at some point.
Go for it.
I love, I like the giraffe thing. So we got the typical bullshit with Trump, and then Mamdani getting.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that?
So Mamdani was sworn in yesterday, and these swearing-ins are always long on symbolism, short on substance or everything else. But it was interesting in listening to clips of his speech and some of the reaction. He's doing a couple things that I think are really interesting and refreshing. One, he's leaning into what everybody thought he was when he campaigned. And it's not like he campaigned on something that he's not. But everybody was like, oh, this guy is like a democratic socialist. He believes in collectivism and all that stuff. And he's saying, yeah, no, that is what I am. We are better as a collective whole rather than rugged individuals. We're better leaning into being New Yorkers and supporting each other as New Yorkers. So he's not running from that, which is really good. And the other thing that he's doing is he's giving the message of we're going to try. These things that we want to do, fix housing, uh, universal childcare, they are hard and they're going to take a lot of work, right? But he is saying these things are hard and they're going to take a lot of work. But man, we're going to try really hard because that's how great things happen. And we don't hear that at all from national elected leaders. I think Biden did some of it, and I think some of what Biden did, if he didn't blow up his entire legacy in the last year, it would be completely different. But right now, I mean, Congress passed the fewest laws in their history in the last legislative term. The president is doing nothing. He's building a ballroom where we have all these challenges facing us and we're just not trying. So to me, it's very refreshing to hear him lean in and sort of harken back to like, why do we think that America is the greatest country in the world? Because we've always done hard things. We've said, well, if we roll up our sleeves and get to work, we can do a lot of things. We can put a man on the moon, right? We can tame the heartland of
Debatable.
America. Yeah. Running it back. But
For all those loyalists that watch the pod.
right. But that really is the American story, that if we try really hard, we can do incredible things. And he's leaning into it. So I'm here for it. Let's see if it works. There's certainly progressive principles at play there, but I'm excited to see him lean in. I'm excited to see him try.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing right now, and I've been thinking about this a lot over the last few months. Remember when he won, he started tweeting and being pretty transparent about the team he was building and what it looked like to basically take the reins. And I was thinking about that. I was like, man, it would be great to see a politician like actually give us more transparency on like what's going on daily, including the internal thinking about a lobbyist approaching somebody and offering them money and things like somebody in real time being like, look, we're getting, bombarded to, for this legislation to be stopped. These lobbyists are coming after us, and like somebody that's actually fully transparent about stuff like that and showing that it's happening in real time so people get an understanding of like, man, like their job is not easy. They're getting pulled in 27 directions and getting told no all the time. But at the same time, it would be nice to see them like hold their ground on some of these things. And I think that's what everybody's biggest concern is with Mamdani, right? Is just he's going to get shut down at every turn with red tape, and that at some point he's going to get bought and paid for, which is like every politician. So
Yeah.
I'm trying to stay positive and hopes that, some transparency and, he's a man of his word and we'll see.
One of the first things he did, by the way, was issue an executive order undoing all of Eric Adams's executive orders from the time that he got indicted for fraud. So solid.
I love it. I love it. And that was blowing up on threads for a minute, which was good. So,
Yeah.
well, dude, let's start by looking back at 2025 and parse out some of our highlights. So, is there anything off the top of your head that was what was your, I guess, maybe best and worst of 2025?
So I think best would be the year-long overperformance of Democratic candidates in special elections, which wasn't small overperformance. It was massive overperformance by anywhere from 15 to 25 points. And it didn't always win an election, right? There was a Tennessee uh, congressional election where it was a Trump like plus 40 seat. And I don't think it was plus 40. It was like plus 25. And yeah, the Republicans held it, but they held it by 11. Still a 14-point swing. Spanberger in Virginia and Mikey Sherrill in New Jersey and Mamdani, of course, and just congressional special elections across the country every single time. Massive Democratic overperformance. totally undebatable, totally undeniable, and really sets the stage, hopefully, for a good 2026. But at the very least, shows that there is energy, even more so than in 2017, 2018, when the Democrats had a big wave. There is energy this time to be like, no, we need to fucking vote a lot, right? We need our people to vote. And on the Republican side, I think there's a very, very serious, if you're them, lack of energy where they're like, oh man, I don't really like our guy. I'm not going to vote for the other guy, but I don't want to vote Republican either. I need something different. So that was the real big positive for me. The negative for me is, we've seen this very, very real consolidation of power and influence amongst Trump, his immediate circle, like Stephen Miller and his crazy ass wife, Katie Miller, and tech bros, the top people in Silicon Valley, like Mark Andreessen and Peter Thiel, and obviously Elon Musk. But I think, if you're only paying attention to Elon Musk, you're missing the real
You're
story.
missing a lot. Yeah,
So
absolutely.
so I think that as we go forward, this will get in. I think it's especially relevant in AI. I think it's a little bit relevant in things like crypto, but you really have this circle that keeps getting smaller and smaller and smaller of people that hold more and more and more power. And they not only don't answer to us because they're not in elected office, and they not only don't give a shit about us, but they actively believe that they are almost godlike in their ideology regarding what tech can do. Tech is the all-knowing, all-encompassing savior for all our problems, and they have power right now, and we're not going the way of diluting their power, when we're not going the way of regulating their power. We're going the way of corruption and saying, bring a gold bar, a gold iPhone to the Oval Office, and you'll get what you want from Trump. So that's a real negative. And, I think good elections to undo that are a start, but ultimately we need our legislators to get their heads out of their asses and fucking do something.
Yeah. You're not wrong. And that's the like I miss the days where policy won, right? Where like it wasn't just who controls the narrative. It was like, oh, if you actually ran on great policies and you had like an idea and a vision, like and won a couple people from the other side, you could get something pushed through. But man, it's the game's different now. So yeah, I would say, I mean, all of my best things from from 2025 are going to be non-political. Before the football season started this year, there was hopes that the Detroit Lions would win the Super Bowl. That quickly faded. Texas Longhorns sucked ass. Well, they didn't suck ass. Arch took a little slide at the beginning of the year, turned it on towards the end of the year to give me just enough hope to keep my season tickets for next year. So we'll there's that. As a sports guy, I think I probably lean into the mindlessness of watching that stuff over anything else. But my I think the negative, obviously, like I think starting from the start when Trump took office in January and Elon Musk came in with the Doge stuff, that's when things started to really hit for me because we had multiple people. We have a lot of people in our lives. So Tamara, my wife, grew up in DC. Probably half of our friends are federal employees. And we watched a lot of our friends lose their jobs. We watched a lot of our friends that have been fully remote for 5 or 10 years get forced to go back into office, which in some instances is a hour to an hour and a half commute each way, and they have small children and they're deaf, so it's not like they can just go find another job. They're stuck in these situations now that are like feel impossible for their family. And so watching the government fail people that I'm close to has been really hard. And this is maybe, and I've experienced it before in lighter terms, but on a mass scale, the beginning of 2025 was the first time I felt like our government was actively hurting its people, like, intentionally. And, like, we've talked about this a bunch before, but the beneficiaries of federal jobs, like, those are low paying jobs, and they typically go to people that need them. They go to our veterans, they go to people with disabilities oftentimes. They go to, and some of the work is not the most critical work. Some of it's, pushing paper, doing a lot of the admin stuff that other people won't do, but those jobs are necessary and it's the livelihood of a lot of people. And so that's been the, I think the hardest thing coming out of 2025. That, and then the Epstein files is, like you hit on this when and I don't think I fully had connected this in my brain until I heard you say it, but like the whole idea that there's this conspiracy of billionaires that traffic young women and get away with whatever they want to do, and then actually finding out that that's real and it's documented and it's been through court and there's video evidence and it's just not getting released. This is freaking bananas to me. Like, it's absolutely insane that that there is not clarity. And the fact that there is not clarity, it tells you that there is a lot of people spending a lot of money to keep all of that information from coming out. So, like, it's, if nothing else, and then it's disheartening to also see the narrative from the other side change. Like, people, the growing acceptance of terrible values, rather than, it's like me finding out that the Detroit Lions were actually actively as a program killing puppies, and then me, because I'm a Detroit Lions fan, being like, well, maybe some of those puppies deserve to be killed. uh no, wrong answer. Wrong fucking answer. The right answer is like, oh, I'm going to disown this franchise because they're doing some terrible shit. And I'm going to like rethink everything that they've told me. That's the correct answer. So like, if there is proof and evidence of that, then yes, like let's step away. But I think it's been disheartening to the see some of the atrocities happening and the justifications of it. That's just, it's hard to stomach, man.
Yeah, I think it's probably why you're positive is sports. And by the way, the of the top 25 rated television programs this year, 23 of them were sporting events.
Yeah. It's the
Uh,
only thing people watch live anymore.
it's it's the only thing people watch. Well, I mean that includes recorded stuff, right? But it's an escape, I think, from everything being terrible. It's interesting because uh, I'm like a few years down the tracks from you on stuff like the Epstein and the response to it. So for me, I'm all like I'm past the what the fuck stage. I'm not sure if I was ever disheartened by it, and I think I went straight from what the fuck into like deep cynicism. Uh, where it's so tribal. Politics is so tribal. Our country is so tribal. It's like that podcast, The Necessary Conversation. Everything changes when it's your guy in office. There is no moral compass. There is no ground. People don't, if they, I think the thing that I don't get, and I think, again, this is a failing of mine, is that I think people do have values that are not represented, let's say, by MAGA. And I'm going to pick on myself with my sister, who voted for Trump, who I can't believe it, voted for him in 2016, did not in 2020, did in 2024. And when I found out that she voted for him, I think I've spoken to her 6 times since then, and it's been like, happy birthday. Uh, and, that's probably my fault, right? Because I know her. I've grown up with her. I know that she has values that are not reflected by the MAGA movement. But she voted for the MAGA movement, which means that there's enough appetite for those values or enough willingness to allow them for whatever, for your own personal gain, for whatever reason, you're willing to accept pedophilia and fucking cover-ups of pedophilia. You're willing to accept blowing up boats in the Caribbean. You're willing to accept rampant, blatant ass corruption. You're willing to accept the Doge and the shutting of USAID, which has probably killed hundreds of thousands of people around the world. You're willing to accept all of that for some personal gain. I think that's the only thing that happens is people weigh their personal interests, and they, in my estimation, overweight that against larger societal moral values. And so when I hear, it's like when I hear what you're talking about with your friends in the DC metro area, it's like, yeah, it's completely terrible. That's what's happening. It was also completely foreseeable. So anybody that voted for this, I've just become cynical about it because I need acknowledgement from
Yep.
those people
And
that
you're never going to get
either,
it.
and I'm never going to get it. And I'm
You're
going to
never going to get
scream
it.
into the void forever. Tell me why, and tell me that you know that it was stupid.
Yeah.
And I'm
And
never going to get either of those things.
you can tell immediately by anybody's reaction, right? As soon as if the reaction is defensive, immediately, like if new information gets you defensive, it is the essential sign of emotional immaturity. So if new information puts you on your heels, and you go the defensive route rather than seeking understanding, like that is essentially like all of everything that you just said. I always hear this. Well, like the response is, well, why didn't Biden release the Epstein files? What about all the Nancy Pelosi corruption? What about all of this? And it's like, man, okay, great. But uh, are we living in a time like we all grew up, two rights don't make a wrong? Like, great. I will not absolve the Democrats from doing terrible things throughout government. There are Democrats that have done some awful shit, and honestly probably belong in jail for it as well. But that's not the current state of affairs, right? Like the last 4 years have actually been relatively peaceful politically. For the most part, there's been people that are been frustrated, and the let's go Brandon stuff, and sure, there's always going to be that sect, but for the most part our government and our life has actually been relatively quiet, which is honestly how it kind of should be. We shouldn't be like back in the day when government was boring, like, but when you put a TV personality in as president, yeah, then every freaking headline is the next, is getting everybody's attention all the time. And the dude can't even just deal with America anymore. Now he needs the world's attention. So we're there. But yeah, if we can't end the, like, hey, new information should be processed through values, not through, hey, this is my team and my guy, so I'm going to go to bat for him. Like, yeah, sometimes your team and your guy is a fucking terrible person. And when you figure that out, it's time to jump ship. And
Yeah.
and the left needs to get better at the one thing I will say, and this is the part that's been the most challenging for me, because I have a lot of friends that are Republican. I live in Texas. And I've tried not to just cut them out of my life, knowing that they voted for Trump. And there are times that I have such a hard time being around them, and they shut down political conversation often, and that frustrates me even more. Like, you won't even talk about this, and this is important, and it's impacting my life and my family life and some of our friends' life, and you voted against this, and you won't even have a conversation with me about it. But at the same time, like your sister, I don't think it's actually wholeheartedly their values. I think they likely checked a box and then and kind of moved on. These particular people, if they were actively engaged in everything, I think I would probably distance myself a little more, because then our values are for sure farther off. But yeah, I think it's important for us to be okay. Like, that dude lies about everything. So we have to be okay welcoming people back that are like, yo, I got duped. And
Yeah.
look,
Agreed.
if that's you, like, welcome back. Like, there is a place for moderates. There is a place for Republicans that still hold Republican values. Like, dude, the conversation of abortion, like this is the exact thing. This is a real argument that we can find balance with, right? Like when we decide life becomes life, right? There's no 100% certainty with that. So like there should always be tension on this topic, because there are going to be people that believe life starts at conception, and there's going to be people that believe that life doesn't start until a breath of air is taken. There's not a necessarily right or wrong in there. And so the tension of people fighting for what they believe in is actually a very good thing. This is how we create balance. It's how we create, a system where we don't have, birth control type third term abortions, which I would personally be vehemently against, unless if the mother wasn't in danger, right? But then just saying no abortions is completely wrong for me. So, like, I believe that women should have the right to choose and should be able to do whatever they need to do with their body. So like this is the proper tension. And I just feel like we're missing like so many of these conversations that you can't even have them anymore.
Yeah, I mean,
But
I think there's, go back to my sister for a second, right? Like when I brought this up with her, or when it came up earlier in 2025, you know, she was like, "Hey, I feel like you're mad. Have you done something wrong?" And I basically said, "I don't know how you could have voted for Trump." And she was like, "I kind of thought that was it. I don't want to talk about it." And I was like, I can't do that,
I do.
right? Yeah,
Yeah.
and so I sent her a fairly long text explaining to her all the ways that we have a special needs daughter, all the way who's on the spectrum, and you know probably part of the pride community. Uh, there's a lot of important stuff there. I have two daughters, abortion, and the abortion pill, and mifepristone. These are all very, very, very relevant things in my family. So I spelled out all these things, that why I was so upset, and acknowledged that she doesn't have to vote for my family. She has her own family. But I asked her to acknowledge why I felt strongly about it. And I got no response. All I want is, her to acknowledge and say, I understand why you're upset about his election, and all those issues make perfect sense. You know, I hear you loud and clear. You know, I voted for my reasons, blah, 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 something. But she doesn't want to talk about it. And I don't think you have, I don't, if that's your case, and, why does that get to win? That I don't want to talk about it. Well, fuck you. There's two people who can have that conversation. There was an interesting thing that popped up. I only saw it very quickly. Again, blue sky, liberal Twitter. Someone posted a pretty big Twitter account, uh, who I'd seen when I was on Twitter, and it's like some MAGA person, whatever, USA Barbie doll, fucking whatever. She's got hundreds of thousands of followers, and she basically said, "Hey, liberals or left, you know, you were right. You were shouting this stuff about Trump from the rooftops so that anybody could hear." And she said, "I'm not a liberal. I don't agree with your politics in any way, shape, or form. But the shit that you were shouting about Trump, about his personality, about his goals, was all correct. And I don't want that. And I see it in office now, and it's not what I voted for." And it was like, that's a pretty solid post. Right? Like, yeah, because we were fucking shouting this from the rooftops, right? And
The
to
left,
say
this
that,
is the
and
problem. Yeah, the left is not anti-Republican. We're
right,
anti-Trump. Like
yeah,
that's the problem. Is I've never been anti-Republican. I understand what Republicans believe, and sometimes I agree with them on certain things. I've never been anti that. It's that I'm anti that guy. That and furthermore, that guy actually has very few real Republican values in the first place. So the fact that he weaseled his way into the party is hilarious to me. But like it's the I and that's the part of it that I have to hold true to for myself, is just that I don't want to punish everyone because of a party affiliation. There is and I don't, as I don't want to be punished for mine. Like I I I want to get to the deeper level of all of this and understand kind of what you were trying to get at with your sister is the values behind it. Like give me an explanation. Like let me make me understand why you voted for this guy, and if you have a reasonable explanation, I may be able to give you some grace. You know, like I may be able to be like, "Oh, okay, like your situation, I could see why you would have voted for this." And then obviously just about everything he said he would do was going to do he lied about. So I mean most people should at this point be backtracked on just about everything he said, because if you voted him for the economy, yeah, he touted some amazing things and money matters. So but we are in a worse place, a far worse place than we were a few years ago. And that same sentiment goes just across just about every sector at the moment of the political sphere. So
Yeah, the other thing you said there that I think is correct, and I think the Democrats, if they want to succeed in 2026, they have to recognize the following: they were wrong about Nancy Pelosi's corruption. They were wrong about Biden's corruption. Right? I was wrong about these things. I failed to understand that my prior view, which was, well, they're all corrupt. So like some small bore corruption, stock trading, I don't like it, and I wish they would outlaw it. But I'll sacrifice that for the sake of policies and politics that I like. That gave too much space for what you alluded to earlier, which was well, you let Pelosi do it, so now Trump can do it. And I think that that's a really hard one to overcome because that's correct, right? If we didn't give a shit about Pelosi's corruption and insider stock trading, why are we screaming about Trump's? Now, it's on a much, much, much grander scale. The two things, one is, high school baseball, the other is the pros. We're not talking about the same thing anymore. But, there is a logical inconsistency there. Now, if we flip that, the Democrats have to be better about that, which means they have to strive towards a better future. The Republicans, in allowing it because of whataboutism, saying, well, what about Biden? We're going to allow Trump because you allowed Pelosi. It's like, okay, well, how does that help anything? The Democrats, I think, have an obligation to get up and say, we were wrong about things like stock trading, corruption in politics. We allowed it too much, and we're going to stop. We're going to fix it now. And when they scream, well, what about Pelosi? You're talking about Trump's corruption. To me, the right answer is, you're right. We were wrong about Pelosi. What Pelosi did was wrong, and we should have stopped that. And there should have been legislation passed. And we've learned from that, and now we're seeking to right the ship. And what you're trying to do is just unleash the Kraken and basically allow everything. So, that's a place where the Democrats have to be honest. But I think that people respect accountability. They respect it when somebody says, yeah, you're right. That's a good point. Your point that you just made against me is a good point and it has merit. And I'm going to acknowledge that point. And I'm going to tell you that I've learned from that point and that I'm seeking to improve. And I hope that that's what the Democrats run on in 2026.
I 1000% agree, and I think that there is the season of like party politics is should be put aside. There should be a zero tolerance policy on things like corruption, things like pedophilia, I mean anything that doesn't belong in politics doesn't belong in politics. It's fucking crazy that we have to say that right
And
now.
that's why I'm laughing. I'm like, it's crazy that we have to say there should be a zero tolerance policy on pedophilia.
It's like the one, it's like the one thing in the world that it's like almost all of us agreed on prior to this, and just watching people starting to watch, listening to Megyn Kelly talk, and her comment the other day about like, oh, I don't care who Trump was, rubbing elbows with 20 years ago, as long as he's working for me now. I'm like, my gosh, like that sentiment alone just speaks volumes to the moral emptiness of our country at the moment. We've lost values. And we're all driven by rage at the moment. And if there's one thing about rage that you can pinpoint just about every time, is that it's usually idiotic.
Yeah.
Rarely do you hear an angry person speak intelligently and truthfully. So
Yep. Yeah.
our country's being driven by all of it.
Yeah. I'm actually gonna like. I know in the show notes for today, I put this torrent sort of down at the bottom, and I'm going to bump it up. I'm going to give you my before you speak manifesto, right? Because I
Yeah.
think a lot about this podcast. I love doing it. Uh, but I also think about what is it? What does before you speak mean? And what do I hope that people would do? Would take from this podcast. And I think it goes something like this. When we talk about thinking before you speak, right? Because ultimately that's a reductive way of what we're doing here. It's not just like, oh, should I say this? What I hope is that people take the time to reflect upon their uh, their own moral values, what is important to them, their own moral compass, and keep that centered. A lot of therapy talk here, but whatever. Keep that in mind when all these things come flying at you. And before you speak, think, does what I say, do the opinions that I'm about to put out into the world, do they align with my values? Right. I believe that's what should happen before. It's what I try to do. Before I speak, I try to think, is this going to align with my values? And I'm not perfect. Nobody's perfect. But I feel like if we all took that moment before we spoke to say, doesn't matter who my guy is or not. What matters is my own morality, my own sense of values. And I'm going to stand on that because I believe people have them, and I believe that they're well held by everybody. And if people stand on that, the world becomes a better place. It's when we abandon them, little by little by little, we start to lose any sort of foundation. To me, before you speak, what does before you speak mean? The most reductive thing is think before you speak, of course. But think about what you honestly believe. Think about the outcome that you wish for a situation. Think about the best way to get to that outcome, even if it means that you have to take a fall or shut your mouth for a second, right? I talked about that in the Shut the Fuck Up a couple weeks. So that is, to me, what this podcast means. And what's been so cool is how I've listened to things and been like, okay, well, what do I believe? And how it's brought that to the fore. So that's my before you speak manifesto.
I couldn't agree more. And I think that's exactly why we're doing this, because I recognize in myself, and ironically, tying this back to the rage thing, the times that I have abandoned my values and said something that I regret is usually when I'm angry, or something triggers that. I mean, even my post about Charlie Kirk, which wasn't egregious, it was just like, yo, like, this is a sad, terrible event, but let's not look at the guy like he's Jesus. That was met with such vitriol that I immediately, when I didn't immediately, because I didn't log back in and look at the comments until a day later. But when I saw the comments, I was like, oh, wow, there is clearly no middle ground here. So I'm going to just delete this and
Yeah.
be like, and in full disclosure, dude, I posted that out of anger. Like, I posted that because I saw a bunch of stuff in my timeline of like people idealizing somebody that was clearly racist and clearly like, holding, basically going to colleges just to break liberal college kids and tell them that their education was meaningless. And for me, I'm like, yo, like, that's not what I call civil discord or civil conversation. And hate begets hate, and I think the goal with all of this should be, I don't want this podcast to be something that begets hate. I want this podcast to be something that draws people to our values, that draws people to, because I don't care about a right or a left. I care about things aligning with my values. And the truth is right now, what's happening on the left aligns more with what I actually believe. And if there's a Republican candidate that comes out that does some great things and aligns with my values, I would vote Republican again. It depends on the situation, but I'm not going to I'm not going to sacrifice I'm not going to use a title to sacrifice, the things that are the most important to me anymore. Like I don't give a shit. I care about the person, and I have to believe that that person is going to actually stand up for the values that they claim to have, and hopefully that their values align with mine. So,
Yeah, and I
but yeah,
think, yeah, sorry, when I think about this, like I don't hope to convince people by what I have to say, except to maybe allow them to see that well-reasoned people can have different values, right? Like I know that there's a value system out there that is ardently anti-abortion, right? That is pro-life through and through. I may not agree with that value system, and I'm not going to vote for that value system. But I'm not going to tell you that that value system shouldn't exist or is held in bad faith. I believe that it is held by most people in good faith. And you're right, that tension around issues like that is important. So, what I hope is that people can listen to this podcast, and, I am not ashamed to be on the progressive side of the spectrum. I'm not ashamed. I'm not afraid of criticizing the left when they need criticism. And my values, as they come through, are going to come through, shaded blue. Uh, but that's just because they're my values. And I do hope that if this podcast grows, that people will, not react with hate, but will react with, this understanding that, like, no, I have thought about this. These things I say, I've thought about them a lot, and my opinions are a product of that thinking, and we can have a reasonable, rational discussion in that vein, and it doesn't have to be anger. And that's what I really hope and think is cool, and why I enjoy doing this.
yeah, and I'm okay being wrong. God knows I've been wrong plenty of other times, and just about every time I talk to my wife, I'm wrong. We're it's a story of life.
I went 0 for 3 on the football games yesterday, so
Oh, did you?
yeah.
Dude, I actually no, I think I would have actually I think I called all three. I knew Tech was a fake. I knew Indiana was the real deal. I That Ohio State game against Indiana, I was like, oh, this is legit. The one that I was on the fence with, that this was a hope call because I would love nothing more than to see Lane Kiffin eat shit and watch Ole Miss win the national championship after he bailed on the school to go to LSU to do the exact thing that they just did. That would be that would be the best story in college football. So
Yeah.
I am
Yep.
absolutely rooting for that like a diehard right now. So let's jump into our actually I'll make that my prediction for 2026. uh
Ole Miss.
let's yeah, Ole Miss national championships. Let's jump into our 2026 projections. What do you see, how do you see the year playing out?
So I'm going straight politics on all three here. So I'm going to go Democrats crush the midterms, and part hope here. They do so enough so that they take the Senate in addition to the House. I think the House, if the election were tomorrow, the House is almost a foregone conclusion. The Senate, though, I think there's enough energy out there if they do it right where they could take the Senate. So that's prediction number one. A little bit of hope, a little bit of, not exactly walking on a thin limb, out on a limb there. Prediction number two, at least one, if not two, nut job Supreme Court justices retire so that they can be replaced with a much, much younger nut job Supreme Court justice, fucking us over for many more years. I would say it would actually be an incredible unforced error if that doesn't happen. Should absolutely have learned from Ruth Bader Ginsburg and, and Obama, not kind of, and Merrick Garland and all that. They should just get out, get someone younger, you know, get Clarence Thomas the fuck out of
Yeah, I'm
there
telling you,
because it's never a bad day to shit on Clarence Thomas.
never a bad day to shit on Clarence Thomas. We should rename the podcast that.
Yeah. Again, we'll hit an algorithm. The the third
My
one is the third one, Donald Trump dies.
that's a big one.
I mean, the
That would
guy's
change some
81. He's
shit.
eating fucking Whopper Big Macs every
But
day. He's taken cognitive exams every 3 weeks and has had 3 MRIs in the last year. I don't feel like I'm making this crazy ass prediction, but Donald Trump dies. That's my next prediction.
I strayed from that one because I've seen so many people predict health health stuff with him. So I'm gonna go a little bit different direction. I'm gonna go with I think that I think we're going to see enough economic discord in Q1 and potentially Q2 that the majority of the tariffs end up coming off. I think the tariff game gets played out. And I think that there becomes a situation. I think when we start to see the small business numbers, the everything that happens post holiday, all the people looking for jobs numbers are down. I'm going to say that we're going to see enough economic discord that some shit needs to change there, which feeds into your prediction that I think the Democrats start to make some moves forward. Um, I also think that by the end of the year, we're going to see enough from AI that the public narrative may end up starting to change a little bit around more regulation. Um, it makes me really nervous that there's none. And this is for a podcast. We need to get on this at the top of the year, an AI podcast, because it's a healthy topic to have. But I think that if we don't get in early on reining in AI, it's going to get out of control pretty quickly. And like the it's funny because I heard somebody saying this the other day. The race to win this, the US won the race with social media, right? The when before AI, the race to develop a platform for social media and grow it like Meta did was, that was the what everybody started to do. As soon as MySpace and Facebook started to blow up, everybody's like, "Oh, we've got to get into this field, and we've got to beat the Chinese. We've got to beat the rest of the world to this area." And the byproduct of winning that race is an entire generation of depressed children. So the uh, the winning the AI race, I'm going to call bullshit on the importance of that. And I'm going to say the importance is regulating it and making sure the American people are not the ones paying for the data centers, paying for the energy, paying for the water that's involved in this. These billionaires should be the ones that are flipping the bill for all of this. And it's so bad, man. These commercials, have you seen that Meta's running commercials now that like my AI center is going to, bring jobs to your community? Yeah, like the three people that have to sit inside of it with a gun to make sure nobody robs the place and like the two maintenance guys, like, yeah, like, no, it's not going to bring more jobs to the community. So,
Once it's built, those jobs are gone.
yeah, once it brings construction jobs, and those jobs are likely coming from all over the world, though. Those aren't local jobs. Those jobs are coming from like the experienced people that know how to build data centers. So you're just again lining the pockets of somebody that's not even in the town. So I hope that some truth comes out in that stuff. So we'll see. I'm
It
hoping my
sounds
predictions are correct because
it sounds like you're saying that this thing, which every expert says has anywhere between a 10 and 95% chance of killing all of us, should be regulated. Which I agree.
that's exactly what I'm saying.
I've been preparing for
Which
our future AI episode, and I am bursting, man. I'm bursting.
bro, I cannot even tell you. One of the best conversations I've ever had was with a guy at a Christmas party in LA. This was probably in like 2004. and this guy, I honestly thought he was batshit crazy. He was a writer for a sci-fi writer in LA, and he went on a tangent for like an hour and a half while I was drinking with him about how artificial intelligence is going to take over, and like it's the real, like that's the real enemy and everything that's coming and all of this stuff. And dude, I listened to him talk for an hour and a half and just laughed all night. I just like, this was so entertaining because I felt like it was so fake. And fast forward, 20 years, I'm like, my God, like this is
Wait,
crazy. Like I need to find the guy on Facebook. If I could
yeah.
remember his last name, I'm like, like, bro, you were right. we
AI has wiped him off of
it
the
was all
internet.
there. Yeah, he's the first to go. AI is
Yeah.
like, that's why every time I work with Chat GPT, I'm always really friendly. I'm like, look, I'm one of the good ones. I promise. Do you got are we doing a shut the fuck up today?
We can do a shut the fuck up. Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
we got to end on a shut the fuck up.
yeah, always. That's so shut the fuck up. As always, it is not the idea that people should actually shut the fuck up. It is the principle we just talked about 10 minutes ago, that people should stop and, take a moment to reflect before they speak and decide, if what they're going to say makes sense or could be handled differently, or in this case, does it align with your publicly expressed and voted upon values? So I'm going to call out every crazy Fox News MAGA person who is screaming about Medicare fraud in Minnesota to shut the fuck up. Okay, now, there appears to be some legs to the story. There appears to be fraud that went on, and it does appear to have been centered within the Somalian community there. Okay, so this is a story that deserves us, deserves to be aired, and we should know about it, and things should happen, right? Fraud, Medicare fraud is bad. Do you know what the biggest Medicare fraud case in history was? It was a $1.7 billion fraud in Florida by a company headed by a guy named Rick Scott. And if that name sounds familiar, that's because it is twice elected Florida Senator Rick Scott. So, if you are upset about Medicare fraud in the Somali communities, but you are voting for Rick Scott, you need to shut the fuck up because your values are not present. Inconsistent is too kind a word. It is okay to be mad about fraud in Minnesota, about Medicare fraud. We should all be mad about Medicare fraud. It is okay to rain criticism upon Tim Walz, although I suspect with every story it goes before him and beyond him. But it is okay to be mad about these things. But it's not okay to make this a partisan issue when one of your guys did the same thing, only worse. And after we found out about that, he ran for the fucking United States Senate and got elected, right? So we talked earlier about this podcast and, people taking a moment to reflect upon their values and moderating or making sure that what they put out into the world is a reflection of that moderation. If it's not, you should shut the fuck up and try again. Rethink it. Find your find your moral compass. And in this case, Fox News, every single time they run a story about this situation in Minnesota, there should be a portion of that story that says this fraud is the second largest fraud in United States history, behind only the Medicare fraud perpetrated by Republican United States Senator from Florida, Rick Scott. Because otherwise, you're not interested in the Medicare fraud. You're interested in the partisan leanings of the case. And all that's going to happen is more fraud. It's just going to be by your guy. So shut the fuck up for a moment and decide what it is that you're standing for. Are you standing for fraud is bad? Or are you standing for, ha ha, Tim Walz, gotcha? And if it's the latter, shut the fuck up and think about that some more. That's my segment.
Yeah. All right, fist bump.
Fist bump.
Gotta get a
Boom.
camera fist bump, bro. Yeah, actually,
All
I
the
don't
way
know if
in.
you saw this. This is gonna come your way soon. Got you a mini microphone that you
A
can
mini
drop
mic?
for later.
Excellent.
It's all yours next time I see you. So, well, let's plan on. What are we gonna talk gerrymandering next week? Or are we gonna talk? You want to talk AI?
Let's go AI. I am fucking ready, and I'll be even more ready next week. Let's
Yeah.
go.
That'll be fun. This is probably going to be a two-parter, our AI series, but I'm excited for that one. So this is a good one, Elwyn.
Yep.
I'm excited for this year. 2026 can only be better than 2025. I don't know that it can
Happy
get
New
any
Year,
worse.
man.
Please, God.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.